Good morning, Malaysia. Hi, Sharm! Welcome to Malaysia.
Hello. Good morning, Singapore from Malaysia, from KL to be. Yeah,
And
right.
I have to tell you, doesn't matter whether you agree with me, you're looking a lot more gorgeous on Malaysian grounds, okay?
Oh, is it? That's just I'm just putting it down to I overslept and I'm like in panic mode. So the brain has got wire. Zap. That's the kind of thing. How are you?
Good morning. How was your trip to KL?
Surprisingly uneventful and very, very efficient. So hats off. I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah, all good. So smooth sailing so far. My app's working. So yay.
Since you're in Malaysia, give us a direct compliment.
Give you a direct compliment.
Surprisingly efficient. So try to make it a direct compliment. Oh, Malaysia, you were so good, sort of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello. Okay. So I have to put context, right? So I'm a former Malaysian who is now Singaporean. All right. And so I always take it that I have a right to, to put my hands into Malaysian things. So yes, I came in expecting anything that could go wrong, but that's also me. So direct compliment was immigration was super efficient. So was Dr. To you, very, very efficient. Right.
I think
you think?
I think we really need to show you how to give direct compliment. Like Malaysia, you were so good, kind of a thing.
Okay. Hello. It's just that. So far.
Okay. So you've become you too in the part of the world that you belong. So we'll do the Malaysian thing. I'm going to bring on, we all know we have Wong Woon Mun from Alliance as our guest today. So I insist that I want to introduce her, because I know people can read through her CV, I think I've been talking to you about Wong Woon Mun. Wong Woon Mun has, I've known her for 20 years. In fact, it was when I had just started my business, and I used to run programs, right? And invite HR people. And she's one of those who came into one of my first programs. And I will say since then, she's been a client. But more than a client, when you work with clients, and especially very few leaders whom I thought, I could actually report to her and work for a living. Now, and that's really how much of respect and admiration I have for her, because I've seen her through in the last 20 years in HR. and we work together. So she's got this like we all gossip behind her, with the participants. How
It's like you have to
perfect
gossip behind her. What?
behind her, like what I'm doing now. She is
Uh,
just so perfect, in the sense that she keeps it all together, even though I've been in a situation where if I were in her position, I know it'd be really, really stressful. But having said that,
mm,
this is probably the only person, right? When we do leadership programs, we always ask them. So one of the exercises that we do is we'll ask them, give us a role model. And very often we are choosing people whom we have not known,
mm,
who have read about.
mm,
Only
mm.
in Alliance, and especially when I do for HR, Woon Mun's name comes up very regularly. Within
Okay.
HR, you can say maybe she bribed HR, right? But
Huh,
even
bias.
in the HR,
Huh,
people will say she is my role model. So that's why we're
brilliant.
really excited, because it's not easy to get Woon Mun to this part of the world at all. For her to say yes to this show, I don't know which stars I'm going to thank. So without wasting much time, let's bring Woon Mun, because we are very excited to see what grounds her or not. All right, let's welcome Woon
Yes.
Mun.
Okay. Here she comes.
Hey,
Hi.
hi. Good morning. Good morning, Malar.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Sham. You
Good
certainly made
morning,
my
woman.
day with all the lovely, lovely words.
No, I mean it's like Woonman said yes. I think Badri. I'm not sure you Badri of Unita Badri Abdullah. When I posted today's event, he said I know her for 10 years, right? So we haven't caught up with the gossip, but it sounded like he likes you. So I told because otherwise Badri won't go that way. Because you've always been this. So while I within Alliance, I have seen you being on stage, and whenever you do introduction, right, Sham, if she does the introduction, the trainer who starts off got problem one, because you have to match her energy.
Yeah, you were telling, right? Yeah, it's like the training started. It's not an introduction, but it was like the training just started,
Yeah.
right? It was not started by the trainer. It was started by the HR director.
Yeah. And you're like thinking now, they're thinking, okay, Woonman, please continue. And then when she passes it on to you, you're under a lot of pressure. So that's the energy of Woonman that I have actually always seen, right? But Woonman has never like come out to publicly to share, even though I think we
Mm,
had an opportunity. She's been that person behind all the time, right? So I don't know whether she's extrovert or introvert. I'm so confused, but let's ask her those questions. But before that, I just want to say good morning to three wonderful people who have said hello
yeah.
officially. Hi, Luis Marias. Hi, Gerald Fernandez. And hi, James. James is saying hello from Sydney. James, congratulations. I know you, I saw your photos on your graduation. Congratulations. You just finished his master's. Okay, so
Brilliant.
with that, Woonman, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm feeling great, and also under a little bit of pressure since you kind of overrated me, I guess. But happy to be here, and warm welcome also to all who are listening in.
Nice,
Good.
nice.
Okay. So I have known Malar for a while now. Yes, there is sometimes you think like maybe she's overrating someone, right? She's exuberant and all of that. But I think she's spot on with this one, with what she's just said. So yeah, good to have you on the show, Wunman. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you. Thank you, Malar.
Thank you for having me.
Fire
And,
the
and,
pressure.
and Shamini seldom agrees with me, so I'm glad she's agreeing my assessment of you. So Woonman, so tell me, so the first thing I'm going to start off with is, why do you feel, or what makes you think that you're overrated? From my introduction of you.
Okay. If I may, I just maybe just share a brief intro about myself, and
Yes.
also, to maybe explain something about what has been posted about my 20 years, for example, in this function and so on. Yeah. So you're right. My background has primarily been in learning and development. And I must say that that was how I started. So the first 9 years of my career was spent doing learning and development. I consider those my formative years, right? So I was can be regarded a learning specialist with two reputable organizations whom I am still very proud to have been associated with them. Number one was Public Bank, and then I moved on to HSBC Bank. So clearly, they have grounded me, I would say, and taught me what I know today about learning and development. And then along came Allianz some 20 years ago, and I joined Allianz first as the head of learning and development, responsible for the life insurance entity. I still remember that time, coming out from the banking sector into the insurance industry. It was similar and yet not exactly the same. So honestly, the last 20 years did not feel like 20 years at all because things were just so fast paced and there were so many things that were happening. Maybe one of the reasons why, there was just so much happening internally that I probably didn't also have time to think about, okay, what else could I do externally, perhaps. So from managing the learning and development in the life insurance entity, I moved on then to deputize my then head of HR. So from a specialist, I moved to become more of a generalist, I would say. Yeah. And then in 2008, I must say that was when one of the key turning points in my career came because we decided then that the operating model for HR would change because to the customers we are Allianz. It did not matter whether we were life insurance or whether we were general insurance. So that was when we merged the two HR functions. We became one. So, it was a bigger portfolio then from just about 350 employees. We then expanded to be responsible for, 1,800 people. And then there was the investment holdings that was set up also the same time. We got ourselves relisted on the stock exchange. And then along the way, we acquired another insurance company. And so, many things happened throughout the years. And I must say, really, time just flew by. And the 20 years, I must say, it has been really steep learning for myself. So, I was also very much captivated by the heading, stuck or grounded. Someone looking at my CV would probably think that, hey, it's not as colorful. Probably it's a little bit dull, maybe in comparison, to some other CVs that I have seen. But I guess this is probably one area of biasness we sometimes have, right? So when we look at a CV, I think we need to perhaps, go a little bit deeper and really understand, how this person has evolved and developed as well. Yeah.
What makes you say that you're grounded? I mean, you used that word, right? You used it in when you said you're grounded in it, right? So what makes you say you're grounded, or you could also take it from what keeps you grounded. But let's take the first one first. Let's take the first one. What makes you say that you are grounded?
Yeah. So one of my former managers used to tell us this: we must be a jack of all trades and a master of one. Not a master of none, a master of one, right? Because each of us, I think, should have a domain of expertise, I call it, right? And for me, I think I've decided since many years ago that domain would be HR, right? So that's my domain of expertise. But by and large, I think all of us need to also get out of this thinking that my world is all about HR, because that is also not true, right? So as a leader in whatever capacity that you are in, yes, you have that domain of expertise, but then it's really about how do I then use that domain and the so-called experience or your knowledge to then relate and apply, right, to the bigger context of the organization. Because at the end of the day, it's really about driving business. It's really about supporting the business, right, with whatever domain of expertise that you come from. So in that sense, I would consider that to be my grounding in terms of having that expert area. But at the same time, right, it should not therefore cause me to just be so inward looking and just care only about what's happening in the HR world. Because if I'm not adding value, and if I'm not adding value to the bigger context, then I think it would have, defeated the whole purpose of having that expertise. Yeah, that's how I see it.
Okay. And so what keeps you grounded?
Mm. Yeah, people often tell me that, it's easier to work with machines and systems, if there's an error, you just reprogram it, right? If it's a programming
Glitch.
language you're talking about. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
When it comes to people, it's of course not like that. There are lots of challenges as well, and human behaviors, for example, right? We can't really predict as well, and each of us is so unique and different. We have different needs and all. So what really keeps me going? I've got to say that, I mean, deep within, I have got this. Uh, um, you can call it calling,
Mm.
to want to, look at whatever that I'm doing as having a higher purpose, right? So in my, so to speak, little world or little circle of influence, I hope to be able to then make a difference. In my case now, it's really the Alliance community, the 2,000 odd colleagues who work together with us, and how can I, in my capacity, make work hopefully a little bit interesting for them, and create an environment where people look forward to coming to work. So that, I must say, to a large extent, has kept me going.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. I've got a naughty question, but I'm going to ask Malar to ask the next question because I think whether I should ask you the naughty question.
Okay, naughty question. All right.
You should ask her the naughty question, but she's very good at. We already have a naughty question from Luis Moraes, but before that, right?
Ah.
One of those things that had always struck me is that when you're talking about living on purpose, I mean that's how I know you, right? And I know that when I say that you probably think I'm biased because I've seen you, right? What do you do? Because I think two things, right? One is I think where the world is moving right now, if it's not as colorful. In fact, I hear when someone says, "How long have you been working in a company?" And if someone says it's more than 5 years, it's like, why are you wasting your time here? That's a common that's expectation and acceptance, right? So in the past, if you moved job, when I first started my career, if you move job, people say, why are you moving job? Stay in one place, become good at what you do, sort of advice, right? But now the advice has gone opposite. Why are you in the same company? You should move, right? So I'm just wondering, and in the 20 years that I know you, every time I've met you, you seem to have the same energy or more energy, right? I mean, we all have our, and I'm glad I didn't see you during your down days. So when you beyond your vocation, beyond being purpose driven, beyond being value centric, what do you say to yourself when you wake up in the morning and know that you need to step into this people's manager's job?
I'll be lying if I say that, it's always at this high, because yes,
Mm.
there's high, there's low, there are those days. I still remember my early days as a trainer. Yeah, that there were also times when I honestly had to drag my feet into the session. Those days when you don't feel up to it, and then you're going in to deliver, a session on staying motivated and motivating your team and so on, right? So to me, I think it matters a lot about being credible.
Mm.
So I think one of the values that I hold very dear to is really about walking the talk and being credible. Um, and I guess it is really since my training days. So my training days has certainly taught me a lot of values that I still hold today. One of which, for example, I used to train on service, and there was always this quote about do to others what you like others to do to you. So that has always been something that I try to apply also internally in my own life. Yeah. So yes, the, how do I get myself started? Where does the energy come from? Honestly, I think it's really, from, yeah, it's supernatural. I have got to say that I need to, uh, I try as best as I can, right, to stick to a certain routine. And over the last 2 years, I must say that I have found maybe a routine that serves me better, in a sense that, I discipline myself in terms of, when I get out of bed, what do I do immediately? So I need to have some quiet moments, right, where I reflect on what I want to do for the day. Um, yeah, I'm a Christian, so I also take time to, to pray. And then I go for my morning walk. And that, I think, helps me keep that energy level, right? So that's at the start of the day, before I actually get down to, yeah, what's in it for me for that day, right? Whether it's meetings, or sessions like this, and things like that. So I must say that, I am no superhuman. I also have my low time, but I must say that, thankfully, somehow, uh, being disciplined and keeping to a certain routine, and try to see the positive in the, even sometimes, when things don't go as expected, right? And
Mm,
I know it's not easy, yeah, especially
mm,
when, you're responsible and accountable for many things, and sometimes, priorities are just not met. You get frustrated as well, but yeah, this is when I have got to constantly remind myself. I think this is certainly one area that I need to get better at. How do I step back, calm myself down, and try to also understand things from the other person's point of view? Yeah.
thanks, thanks. So, what
Nice.
would your advice be if there are younger people? We are young, but younger people.
Okay.
So I didn't use the word young. So there would be people who are listening and who are getting the common advice and jump, change jobs, and that's the only way you can progress in the career. And there would be some women out there who are thinking, I really like my job. I know, I'm engaged in my job. I know this is my call. They listen in, right? But then there's this noise that the what I will say, the logical thing people you hear, right, which is, go and change jobs, get more experience, become jack of all trades, and only when you jump, you in terms of salary, you'd get the 20% jump and stuff like that. For those who are hearing all of the noise, but they can relate to you as to why they want to stay in their job, right? How would you ask them to discern? How do they discern whether they should stay or they should follow the trend of the world, which is to shift?
All right. Well, I believe that ultimately, right, you would know it when, you hear that voice for yourself. But probably what I can offer is just, additional guidance as to, what else can you look out for. So I would first and foremost say, do not be pressured to think that, yes, I've got to, jump from one organization to another in order to progress. uh, well, if the organization that you are currently in provides you those opportunities, then I would say, yeah, I mean, the opportunities are right there at your doorstep, right? Um, and a lot of it goes back to ourselves. Um, so for example, in Allianz, we promote a lot in terms of career development, especially for younger talent. And what we are observing is also, sometimes when the opportunities are there, people are hesitant to come forward. It could be because of fear that, oh, I still have a day job, and how am I going to manage, this additional responsibility? Or, I'm in my comfort zone, and I'm not ready yet. Maybe the timing is not right. And I've concluded that there will sometimes never be the perfect timing, right? And one has got to decide, right, exactly what or how you want to develop personally and professionally. And at the same time, right, if your calling is something more, right, you want to, for example, I'll just use it in the context of insurance, right? If you believe, right, in the purpose of why someone purchases insurance, for example, and which is really about security, right? It's really about securing something that is so uncertain. And if you feel that, yes, I've got so much more that I can offer, right? Whether it is in terms of coming up with, better product design, or improving on the customer experience so that when it comes to the claims, it is less painful, for instance. So if there is that innate desire that you want to do that, then I would say it's really up to you, right, to come forward and say that, look, I would like to contribute in this area. I may not have all the experience, right? But I certainly bring along with me certain skills, and that goes back to the domain of expertise, right? So it could be, a skill in I'm just again, putting off what I'm familiar with. For example, I'm familiar with analytics of data, or I can do programming very well, and so on. So whatever that domain of expertise, you come forward, right? And from there, do not be afraid, right, to take it to the next level and to grow, right? So I believe many organizations today offer those opportunities for development, for growth, without us having to really be pressured, right, to say that, okay, I'd like to move out and explore the
Mm.
world. Of course, that is also not wrong, because different industries do allow those different exposures. But today we are living in a very borderless world, and we're talking a lot about ecosystems that are happening. So yes, even insurance, for example, right? Our ecosystem is so huge, right? So it's not just about insurance. It's also about, for example, our partners, be they hospitals, be they panel workshops, and so on. So the world is actually pretty borderless, I would say. So you don't really have got to exit one to go to another in order to gain those new experiences. That's how I see it.
Nice. So what I'm
It's just
hearing, Marsha, I know you have a question. So what I'm hearing from you is that basically, instead of thinking whether I'm going to stay or go, what I'm hearing from you is your discernment is very much: do I know how the talents, the gifts that I have,
Hmm.
the talents that I have,
Yeah.
contributes in making a better world, either in the current role that I play or a future role that I could have within the organization, or that next organization is what I'm hearing. So how do I tie back my talent to making a difference to the vocation? So bringing all of it together is how you discern, because then you are engaged and you're making a difference and living a purposeful life. Did
Yes.
I?
Exactly, Mala. You have summed it up very nicely. So I would really I wish to see, right, a workplace in the future where we can break down these walls, right? So it does not matter whether you're HR or you're an IT or finance, but we are Alliance, for example, right? We
Yeah.
are organization A, and we in our own domain of expertise, right, all contribute to that common purpose.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I know Sham has a question, but I need to get this question out because I'm like, so Woodman,
Okay.
in your, I mean, actually, there's two questions, right? I'm sure
one by one,
employees,
one by
one by
one, one by
yeah,
one.
Okay.
I'm sure you will have employees coming to you and saying, I'm thinking of leaving. Right?
Mm.
I mean, you are one of the rare HR managers where I know people go and talk to you and say, I'm thinking of leaving, not after they leave or exit the interview, right? So I've experienced that. I'm thinking of leaving, right? Now, as a HR manager, and sometimes when you can see that they have a talent and they can contribute, and they make a difference within the organization, when you see all of this coming together, right? And they can't
Mm.
see it, maybe because they are either younger, or they don't know how to connect the dots,
Mm-hmm.
right? uh, how do you speak to them, or what's the role of HR in helping people who belong to the organization in the way you say? That means they can contribute, and it's a win-win, right? How do you then speak to them? Because I know you are pretty good at retaining people.
Well, well, people leave for various reasons. I think first and foremost is really to understand, what is that driving factor, right? And is it something that maybe our organization is not able to provide, right? So what you're alluding to is probably they feel maybe stuck again, right, in their current role, and maybe they don't see progression and so on. So yes, certainly we would want to sit this person down and understand again, right, in terms of uh, what this person's aspiration is, right? And what skill set, how this person has developed himself or herself. And again, I'll be also very honest. While we are all concerned about attrition rate, but at the same time, I think it is normal, right, to expect attrition, and it is sometimes healthy, right, to basically, they say it's to replenish. So I think some level of attrition is good for the organization, but I would of course keep a close watch, especially if these are people in the talent pool, yeah, people with high potential, who are promising performers, and who are, capable of a lot more that they probably were not aware of before. So really, I don't think that one conversation can really do magic. However, if they had not been if they have not realized that there are opportunities available, and that's our role as HR. However, I must also say that, again, retention is not the responsibility of HR alone, right? Because every manager is a HR manager, right? And everyone owes it to our team to make sure that we create that environment which engages our people. We know and we can sense, right, when someone is probably feeling a bit disengaged, and we should have that conversation early on, right, and recognize those, can I say, red flags if someone is, not as engaged as this person used to. And I have got to admit that this is still an area of development, right, for many managers, myself included, in terms of how can we better engage, more so now as we move into this new way of working, right, where we don't have the privilege to see each other face to face all the time. And engagement is certainly a big topic today.
Okay. So Malar has given me permission to go next. So I'm going to go a little bit
Sure.
behind, back.
Okay,
And then
your naughty
I pull
question.
it back.
All right.
Yeah. Before the naughty question, though, you said you shared with us your routine of the day, right? We get up in the morning and you've got your quiet time, to think about, and then you've got your prayers, and then you go for your walk, and then you get down to the nitty-gritties of the day.
Yes.
Right, the routine. I call them it's routines or rituals that ground us. Yeah. And I love rituals. I love rituals that ground us. I have my own set of rituals because it sort of anchors you, right? Anchors you, directs you, gives you a sense of focus on what you need to do, right?
Yeah.
And that's great. I just wanted to recap on that one, on that part, and also go a little bit behind, right? You said in what you said earlier on, you said, I have a higher calling. There's work to be done. And as long as there's work to be done, that this is where my work is. And you just spoke about how you counsel someone who comes to you and says, maybe my work here is done. Is my work here done or not? Or should I be moving on? For Woon Mun, when does Woon Mun know that the work here is done? All right. And yeah, will the work ever be done? Or how does Woon Mun tell herself, okay, work here's done, time to move on?
Yeah. I think immediately next is the next few years, when I reach retirement age. So officially then work is done. But yeah, I must say it is, I guess it's a voice that I've got to listen to. And I believe that in my case, it's also about building the next level of leaders. So my successor, for example, right? I believe it would be time to move on when my successor, right, is able then to assume, right, or can even take it to the level beyond. Yeah, I think I don't really have a time frame, but it's definitely something that I'm looking at, right, in the short to medium term.
Yeah. So I'm not. I wasn't taking it from a frame perspective. I was taking it from your system, right? Your internal system saying, right. I think, like you said, your voice, right? There's listening to your voice and saying that, right? Yeah. So yeah, what would your voice say? That's kind of where I was coming from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, to be very honest again, I think the voice is now saying that, there's still a lot more. So, which is why, the 20 years didn't really seem 20 years at all. So for now, I think it's really about focusing on what needs doing. And I believe I will know it when the time comes. And when there is, another calling that becomes so apparent that I know I will need to maybe exit and move to this other role. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Well,
I know you saw me. So now I'm totally, on a different track of the voice because I love that question, right? So Woon Mun, in your role as a HR person or a people-centric HR person is how I see you to be, experience you to be, right? I'm sure you've had situations where you need to manage conflicting situations or conflicting values. Because you're very clear about your values, you're very clear about your purpose, and that's something that I know of you, I believe of you, I experience of you. So you're clear, right? And like any jobs, because one of those things that a lot of people, individuals, and leaders specifically struggle is I have my own set of values, and sometimes in my role, I am asked to make a decision or execute a decision that doesn't feel right. And the right is what I'm going to term as voice. So tell us, or tell me, tell us, when you've had those kind of situations, right? How do you manage? How do you manage?
Okay. Well, I must say that again, right, because of the culture and the environment in Allianz today, thankfully, I think when it comes to um, decisions where it's clearly a no go, right, because it is just against, let's say, code of ethics and so on. We don't have that, right? But I would then say yes. What is common is, for example, exceptions to the rule. So, in HR, for example, and in many other functions, right, we are, of course, guided by a set of, can I say, policies, a set of rules, right, the do's and the don'ts. And I think when it becomes challenging is usually, when you are asked to consider an exception, right? Yes, in many cases, what I will do is, again, I will go back to generally, why are we doing this, right? What is the reason for making this exception, right? And what would be the impact to the person who's requesting for it, as well as to others, right? Because to me in HR, I think it is really a lot about ensuring that whatever practices and policies that it is equitable. Yeah, meaning that there should be no element of biasness and favoritism and so on, right? So I must be able to, and personally, I think this is how I put it to the test, right? I must be able then to say that, should I be questioned on my decision, and should I be asked to explain, and if I'm able to explain it, explain the reason for that deviation, then I would be at peace, right? That it is not conflicting. But if I'm not able to stand in front of someone and say, yeah, why we took that decision, I will also not hesitate to bring this out maybe to, my bosses and say, I actually don't feel comfortable doing this. And I would like to, maybe seek your advice as well. Yeah. So thankfully, I must say that most of the time I've been able to, let's say, come to peace and come to terms, right? And able to give an account as to why certain exceptions were made. And
Right.
if we have had to make too many exceptions, then that is usually a signal that, hey, maybe that policy, when we wrote that, or that rule, when it was set up, we could have overlooked a certain dimension. And that's why people keep coming back and asking for exceptions, right? So that is also a signal that, hey, let's review. And times have changed, perhaps, right? How can we make it still relevant?
Nice.
Mm.
Sorry, Woodman, you brought some. I was going to ask you, are you saying you've never gone to sleep, without with a conflict, right? But you use the word
Yeah.
most of the time, which I'm excited, which means there are times. I'm sure there's at least one incident in your whole career where
Mm.
you, for whatever reason, you made a choice or a decision that may have felt right or could have been under pressure, and you were not at peace with yourself. Because I think the magic word that you gave me was peace, right? That you need to, and that's what grounds you, right? So, could you share with us, that one moment where, you made that decision and you went to bed with no peace, and that was, your own reflection, learning, and whatever, right? How did you reconcile with that when it happened?
Try hard to think of that one. Maybe it is more of a personal experience rather than maybe a decision that I took for someone else, right? So yes, maybe some more than 10 years ago, right?
Mm.
I actually did accept, another job offer
Mm,
while I was in Alliance. Yeah.
mm,
So it was so at that time, right? Probably also pressured to say, okay, have seen it, done it in Alliance, and maybe it's time for me to also move on to experience, other opportunities as well. So I thought I was clear then, and I decided that I would go. And strangely, I think looking back, I must have right made that decision in haste. I did not consider many factors,
mm.
and that actually gave me sleepless night. And to
Right.
maybe make that even more challenging was when my CEO then he spoke to me, and he was asking me, "Are you sure?" and things like that. So I actually mulled over it for a while, and in the end, of course I decided to stay. But that was probably one decision that until today it stays, because I just felt that, yeah, I should have been wiser. I should have considered more factors. So I had also disappointed, for example, that the other potential employer. So I would say, yeah, probably that one. Hmm.
Nice. Nice.
Okay.
I like the way you are staying true to what you're feeling, and I also love the fact that you're willing to reconsider, because I know some people who have regretted and they will not go back on their decision because it's too difficult to say I made a mistake. And I think
Yeah.
that's my big takeaway from what you're saying, is that we all will and may make a mistake, but I think it is staying true throughout the situations, right? Throughout the journey, and recheck in and say it's okay to take two steps backward. Maybe I jumped the gun, and it's okay for me to do that, and not giving to my ego and live with my mistake for the rest of my life, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Or,
Thanks.
Exactly.
yeah, be powered by the embarrassment of saying, I have to go back to this group and say no, right? And
Yeah.
Right. It's not an easy thing to do, right?
No, no, and
Yeah.
yeah, and to make it worse, my colleagues even threw a farewell for me. You won't believe it.
No.
I was like, oh no, I'm back. Yeah, that was kind of embarrassing, I must say.
But that's a nice one. You went to the point of, yeah. And
Yeah.
how does that feel, right? Because I think that's really interesting. Because a lot of times, when like you resign and and then you stay back for I think one of those things that we will struggle with is our ego, right? How do I now say I'm staying back? How do I now go back and say, right? So how did that feel for you?
Oh, at that point, I just wanted to get it over and done with, right? So
Yeah.
after the sleepless nights, I told myself, okay, I've considered now the additional factors. Uh, of course, what the CEO spoke to me did carry a lot of weight too.
Nice.
Yeah, I just decided that, I remember I went to my boss's room and said, yeah, I've decided to stay. And I think they also made it easy for me, right? In the
Nice.
sense
Mm,
that,
mm.
oh, that's great news, right? Uh, so yeah, they saved, the embarrassing
Yeah.
part for me too.
Great, 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 great. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say hello to Somasundram Balakrishnan, who joined us earlier, and good morning to you too. And I think Lewis's question is going to be a nice wrap up for our session. We're hitting that time, right? So the question is: in today's world, fast-paced world, technology seems to be taking over, or is taking over. How do we actually add value to the business? How do we become the contributor rather than the support function, right? And I think this encompasses not just HR. I think your thinking is specifically HR, but you're also, because of your being HR, you think about it from a wider perspective, right? So over to you, Moonman. What would you tell
Yeah.
Lewis to tell his candidates when they come in front of him?
Yeah, thanks, Louis, for the question. I think it's a great question. And it's not easy, right? Because for many, many years, I think HR, I will specifically zoom in on HR, has been regarded more as a support function. Um, so with all these changes that are happening, right, largely spearheaded by digitization and automation and so on, we see now the focus towards shaping the culture of the organization, right? And to me, I think this is really where we come in, because let's leave the so-called the routine day-to-day functions to the system, to technology and so on, and we really free human resources to do what's human, right? What only humans can do. And that's really about shaping the culture. So today we hear a lot around, organization purpose, a lot around creating workplace diversity and inclusion and equity. We hear a lot more about employee health and well-being, and a whole host of other things, right? Engagement and so on. And clearly, these are all very important topics, which really requires, right, us to come in, and I certainly see us adding value in this. Not all of us are equipped yet, but I believe that this is a journey that has started, and with determination and with that in mind, I certainly believe, right, we are well poised to be able to move things forward. And the last 2 years, to be honest, has shown us how important it is, right, that we help the business really shape not just workplace culture, but to also ensure, right, a safe environment for all, and with so much focus also in terms of well-being, right? The topic of not just physical health, mental health, and so on. So these are clearly all areas that I believe HR can certainly come in and play a key role. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Nice,
See if he
nice.
comes out with a follow-up
Yeah, yeah,
question.
you more than
Yeah,
answered
we
the
won't have a
question.
chance anyway.
It's
Yes,
it's so
Malak.
it's so interesting that we never got to ask the questions that we wanted to ask Woon Mun anyway.
Yeah, we're prepared for something else.
Yeah, and that's what makes the conversation really really good, because we are staying current and going with what we wanted to get out of you. So Wunman, I really really want to thank you. Louis, I hope you're happy with Wunman's answer. If not, just buy her coffee, okay? If she'll have coffee with you. All right.
Pleasure.
Yeah, so Woodman, I want to really thank you first for taking time to say yes first, and taking time to be you lah, off screen, on screen, as a personal friend, if I can call you one, and as a professional whom I've dealt with 20 years. You've just stayed same all the time, and for me, that's why I am very proud to say that you are one of the leaders I personally know who walks the talk. And I really want to thank you, today, for all the, I don't know whether it's golden or diamond nuggets for me,
Mm.
because I think what you did is that, we started off with the idea of whether, you're stuck or grounded, because you've been in your job for 20 years, right? And it's so easy to think that you are stuck there. And what I loved about my own takeaway from you is that stuck or grounded, you need to be grounded in yourself. You need to know why you're doing what you're doing. All right. And because then the noise outside won't get into you, from listening and discerning to the voice inside. And what is also amazing from all that you've told me is that this voice inside, beyond you listening, it needs to belong to a place where you can play as in synchrony, right? So your own voice, your own values, your own purpose, your own talent need to match what the organization needs, and its purpose, right? So it's marrying both. But what I truly loved, my highlight for today, beyond you, is I just love the fact that your experience about resigning and the farewell party, beyond it being funny and embarrassing. I am hoping that people who are listening will be like the leaders you're talking about in your story. Both your
Yes.
CEO, who says that, you know what, let's put away ego and let's talk people to people, because people make choices, people make decisions, but communication and honest communication, putting away our personal agenda and staying true to the purpose and the values. I think that communication for me is my diamond nugget, because these are people leaders, right? These
Mm.
are people who say, you know what, we are here to come together, to collaborate, to bring our best talents and our best selves. But for that, we need to communicate. We need to go back and forth, and let's make it easy for the other. For me, that was big, right?
Yes.
Because to make
Agreed.
it easy is brilliant, because that's what brings about engagement and staying on course with the job and the purpose. So there were so many golden nuggets in the stories that you shared, and I think it also reflects the culture, the organization culture that you work with, and how it all comes together. Because the fact that you couldn't think of going to sleep without peace in your heart because there was a conflicting values tells me, one, how grounded you are, and how you have also chosen to work with the organization that is probably grounded in its own way. Until these two comes, I don't think it will work. So I want to really thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add on before we say goodbye to you?
You sum it so well, and I really appreciate this time and this opportunity to just be myself and to also discuss some of these unplanned topics very openly. So thank you very much for having me, and I would also ask all the listeners out there, right, to stay grounded, to enjoy what you do. Yeah, and I think start the day with that, right? How can I um leave an impact, right? And here I'm not talking about really saving the world and so on, but in our own small circle of influence, what is that one change that I can make? Yeah, and I think
Mm.
that will make our day.
Nice.
Thank
Nice.
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Unman. Thank you for saying yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
More often in the future. Thank you, Woon Mun. Have a good day.
Bye.
Have a good day.
All right.
You too. Bye.
And
Wow.
Jay says, authentic leadership. Thanks for staying true to your cause. Heartwarming kudos. Of course, it's Woon Mun.
Yes, that's true.
My heart is warm. The Sharm, how you
I
feeling?
know. I was going to ask you how you feeling, given that you've got history with Wong Mun, right? And I met her about a week ago. She's amazingly consistent, right? Like Northern Star, right? Right. It's like everything goes around, comes back to that specific way of looking at the world, looking at what's happening around her and what's happening to her and what's happening to the people around her. So amazingly consistent. Very nice.
Farooq has come in.
Farooq is here. Yeah. Tell, you wanted to say something about Farooq?
No, I wanted to say that I'm trying to remember, right? Whether I'm biased or towards
you're biased, lah. You're biased. Always biased one.
Let me say this also. I know it's past time, right? But I have to say this, right? There are times when we worked with Woon Mun where we didn't meet our KPIs as a provider, but Woon Mun gave me a lot of courage to be able to sit in her room and say, I think we didn't do well, because in your heart, you know that she will just listen to you and we will work towards a solution together. But more importantly, I will not be punished because I didn't meet my KPI. Is something that I really, really value in working with women, right? Because I think if we can get these type of conversation and collaboration, we talk about psychological safety. I'm a vendor. As a vendor, if you can feel so safe with the decision maker that this mistake you made will not affect your future work with them, can you imagine how sincerely you would want to tell the truth and deal with real issues? And that's something I really think, I'm going to shamelessly put up that I had failed. And I wasn't afraid when it came to Woon Mun because it is Woon Mun and I knew I could talk to her. So as I say that, I also feel a little bit emotional. So I better keep quiet and pass it on to you to say goodbye.
Yeah, and I think that's a brilliant way to end today's episode. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning, and thank you Woon Mun definitely for that. Like you said, I don't know whether it's golden, diamond, or platinum, or whatever it is right now, but they are brilliant nuggets. Thank you so much for sharing them with us and with the little world that we can impact. Like you said, it's not the big thing, I'm going out to save the world, but in that circle of our influence, what can we do? So thank you for joining us. This is the last episode for Break the Bias in March. Next week is April. We start a new month and a new theme, our planet, our health. And we've got very interesting people lined up as usual. So join us again next Thursday, same time, 8 a.m., different place. Look out for the link. And we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you, everyone. Have a good Thursday and the rest of the week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.